How's it going, comics fans? Um, we're back taking a look at some comic books. And so, uh, rather than focus on one, I thought, it's been a while. Why don't we just take a look at a few of our recent reads that are, recommendable? Um, so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of, do some quick walkthroughs to recommend some books that I've read over the whatever amount of time since I made a actual proper book video. Um, so yeah, I think I probably got like 4 or 5 of them. Uh, but starting off, we got this book, Wild, or So I Was Born to Be, Volume 1 by Cristian Castelo. This was, I never heard of this before, recommended to me by my good buddy Mark V, who um, is always uh, reading great stuff and huge breadth in his reading. And so I rely on him a lot to, uh, curate some of my reading. Yeah, but this is this pretty oversized book. Just to give you an idea, this is one of the books I'm gonna look at later. Kamandi Challenge this is regular kind of trade size versus, um, Wild, which is, good beyond kind of European band dessinée size. So yeah, I mean it's always good to get kind of like these large books. The art's bigger and kind of easier to take in. Um, in a format that's not unwieldy in this kind of soft cover. But it's well constructed. Love the art. Loved Christian's art. Uh, you know, the story is basically about this, high school, going into high school girl named Wild in the 70s, California. I think it's SoCal. I can't remember. Um, yeah, and like her and her group of friends, are want to make the school roller derby team. And yeah, I guess it's just kind of like escapades with growing up, trying to make the team, other teams at the school or in the city, um, and these are all girls teams that they have to battle older teams, stronger teams. Um, yeah, it was pretty entertaining story. I'm eager to continue reading whenever volume 2 comes out. Um, the art style, I don't know, you could see for yourself. Very stylized. Um, influences wise, not sure. It's a nice mix. That's kind of ends up being pretty original. One thing I'll say is there's a lot of characters, so it's kind of hard to keep track. I sometimes have to flip back and like figure out who am I looking at, particularly with Wild and her group of friends. Um, some of the Castello's face kind of styles tend to be similar sometimes, and I think with like the way the coloring is, like a limited color palette, I kind of get confused at moments as to who was what. Wild has this kind of like birthmark on the side of her face that helps you, to tell that it's her. But yeah, I mean it's just a fun. I don't know if it's all ages. Maybe it's like middle readers and up. Um, but I found it really entertaining. There's kind of action and drama growing up, dealing with fear and um, kind of attacking, I guess, your dreams. But yeah, it was a very interesting read. Um, the ending, it wasn't a clear ending, so there's clearly more that's to come. And I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, it also, okay, so another aspect of it is kind of like, growing up, Latina and, in an area where, maybe there's some other, you know, Latinos that, speak Spanish and maybe you can't speak Spanish and you feel kind of like an outsider or you're treated, um, a little differently because of that. Um, yeah, I found that interesting, found the story to be interesting. It just there looks to be a lot of depth, I guess, that's being developed in this world, and so yeah, it'll be interesting, where all of that goes. And so I'm not sure when the next volume is supposed to be out, um, but this one was a fun read and fun art, um, refreshing kind of art style, and so I look forward to what comes next from the Castelo. I actually just ordered he made available like a Spider-Man story, like an indie Spider-Man story, so waiting for that to come in. Um, but yeah, Wild from Oni Press, um, by Christian Castelo. Fun read. Recommend this. Next, we got Kamandi Challenge. So kind of an older, read anthology. I'm not sure how to define these. They kind of went through. So this book had a lot of like, um, you know, well-known creative teams, artists, writers, um, kind of do try to come up with a Kirby Kamandi story. But what would basically happen is one writer and artist would start it off, leave it at a cliffhanger, and it was up to the next team to continue the story. And so there was, there's continuity in that sense, but it's kind of like a game of put Kamandi in, an awkward, dangerous position and see if the next team can creatively, make a good story and get out while getting out of that situation. And so, uh, big list of big names, Neil Adams, Amanda Connor, Keith Giffen, Dan Jurgens, Ivan Rice, Steve Rude, Walt Simonson, Ryan Sook. So, a lot of good art throughout this. The quality varied. I feel like it started off way, way better and it kind of finished on the weak side. And so, I mean, I think anything like this, the finish is going to be tough and a lot, of pressure is on the kind of anchor leg. Here's the Neil Adams story. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Kamandi fan, a Kirby fan, and so I'm like, "Oh, I've never read this. Why not? Why not read a Kamandi story? Some of the art in it was, very solid. Um, so yeah, it was a fun read. This page just recently came up for sale on Comic Art Fans, and I was pretty tempted to get it. Um, it was a reasonable price, but eh, you know, sometimes you got to make choices, and I mean, I found this an entertaining read. Um, going kind of through like mindless, one issue a day, revisiting Kamandi, which is a story, that I really liked. Here's the Rude part, Steve Rude, which is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a book where I need to collect the art. Yeah, I mean, there was some just kind of, cool, crazy stories. Some that didn't land quite as well. But overall, I mean, I think I got this on sale, like 50% off or something, 60% off or something. So why not, tribute to Jack Kirby. And so decent read. Yeah, if you ever see it like, on discount somewhere, it'll be entertaining read. Next we got Coma by Pierre, Wazem, and Frederik Peeters. So I bought a few Frederik Peeters books recently. Beyond this, I also read, Frederik Peeters' written and illustrated book, Lupus. I think it's called Lupus. I enjoy this much more. I like his art style. This book is, a little bit more, I guess, lighthearted. I don't know, not as sad, not as depressing, you know. So it's about this girl in this world where she's helps her dad, I think, clean chimneys, and she has this thing where she randomly kind of passes out, seizures or passes out, and somehow her mom kind of passed away when she was young or disappeared when she was young, I guess helping the dad. And yeah, I mean, the dad's just working hard, living with this girl. And she makes kind of like discovery, in one of these chimneys. And so it turns out there's kind of like this other world beyond their reality, and it's kind of a journey, a fantastical journey through that, and really ends up being something about kind of people being able to shape and create the life that they want to and the world that they want to through their outlook and through their actions. And so positive, uplifting story, decent art. Yeah, I don't know how to describe the art. I guess it's kind of like a Franco-Belgian cartoony style. But yeah, it was a decent read. Koma from Humanoids, Frederik Peeters, artist Pierre, Wazem, the writer. So yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it, but decent length and entertaining. All right, so I got these two trades, die, Kirkman, Gimple, Chris Burnham, and so I basically got it because they were essentially on clearance. I think I bought like the first issue or two as a floppy when they came out, and this book, when it came out, it just came out suddenly. There was no announcement. It just showed up one week, at the comic shop, and like, oh crap, it's a Kirkman Burnham book. And I'm assuming it didn't do fantastic because the first trade is issue 1 through 8, and the second trade goes 9 through 14. So they're a little bit short. They act like, okay, this might continue. Continue as a story. It leaves kind of things open ended, but you're going like 8 issues to 5 here, and it felt like cut off. It felt like the second trade felt like, okay, we were gonna have 16 issues, but it's not going well. Let's wrap this up. Somewhere around 12. They're like, we got to wrap this up. So then 12, 13, 14, they just flew through what they needed to fly through. Huge jumps in narrative. Yeah, and so that was kind of disappointing. I mean, overall, it's a fun book. It's like your typical, I think, Kirkman book, crazy Burnham art. And I'm a fan of Chris Burnham. I found the first trade to be pretty entertaining. This is not for kids, for sure. Mature book. A lot of violence, commentary on kind of politics and Illuminati type stuff. What happens, the rich and powerful, how they're influencing the world. Yeah, I mean, I think it cost me, these were like $6 each or something like that, and so for that it was fantastic, entertaining, cheap read. I really wish, yeah, I mean, they kind of slowed down and kind of finished things properly. Not that it's like totally dissatisfying, but there's moments like, what's going on here? Like, you're just making these huge crazy jumps, that were not just unexpected, but like it's just like, oh, we fast forwarded. So yeah, I mean, if you like cool art, typical kind of Kirkman craziness, this is going to be up your alley. Who knows if they ever kind of revisit, but yeah, I mean, I got it because I've always meant to kind of read, and it was on sale, like in stock trades and somewhere else it was like on a huge sale, and so why not? Secret agents, battles. Yeah, I mean, nothing mind-blowing, just pure entertainment, and for that it does its job, and did a good job. So yeah, recommend. I think it's, volume 1 is still on sale at In Stock for like $6 or $7, and volume 2 I'm sure will be kind of clearance at various places. I'm assuming this just did not do well. That's why they just like, we have better things to do, Burnham and Kirkman or whatever, and so it's just like, let's wrap this up. The sales are not fantastic, and so even Kirkman, I think he always comes out with hardcovers, like oversized hardcovers, different kind of formats for his stories, but I guess it wasn't worth it for him to do that with this, and so yeah, assuming, that's my assumption, the sales were not good enough to keep the momentum going where they wanted to finish properly. So yeah, that was Die Die Die. Here we go. Eisner nominated this coming San Diego Comic-Con, Eisner Awards Animal Castle Volume 1. So I had some issues with this one being nominated for Best Limited Series, considering it's Volume 1. And it's essentially ongoing, and it was a decent book. the artist is Felix Delep, I guess. Xavier Dorlson is the writer, and it's just kind of story where animals have developed some sort of intelligence and organization in an area that was abandoned by humans, and created like a society. And in that society, a bull rules and has his dogs to kind of enforce the laws and rules of society. Very violent culture. And all the other animals are kind of like, under their thumb, have to work to serve, the castle, right? And the community. But really reap no rewards. All of it goes to the ruling class, And yeah, I mean, the art was beautiful. A ton of dialogue. That was my big issue with this book. Is there's just so much dialogue constantly, every single page. If you look, not that I don't enjoy reading, but it's kind of like, it's all conversation. This whole story, and so the art is great. But when I think about something like this, it's kind of like, why is this a comic? Why does this need to be some visual narrative? Because it's mostly dialogue, and so I would assume, this would work as just, a chapter book, a book, write a book, yeah, I mean, not to say that, the art isn't worthy of being kind of shown, and kind of being out there so we see, but I'm sure Felix Delep can work on plenty of comics with this kind of ability, it's just I just, while I was reading it, I enjoyed the art. I enjoyed some of the imagery, as the animals begin to kind of slowly, rebel, right, against the ruling class. That's basically what's happening, while the ruling class is punishing them, and some members of the ruling class are starting to have internal conflicts about the cruelty, right, that they inflict. But yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if you look, right, look at these 2 pages. It's just pure exposition and dialogue. It's just like, while you're reading it, you're like, what is this? It's I mean, like, I like my comics to try to show, more than tell, and um, not to say like I want it to be dumb or dumbed down, but it's kind of like, I think if a story requires kind of so much dialogue and explaining, there's probably a different format that is ideal for it, so yeah, I mean, not to say that it's a bad book. I read it all. It's not like I stopped reading because I couldn't handle like the dialogue. It's just like, yeah, it struck me as like, man, this is just like pure talking, throughout, and yeah, I mean, I just didn't understand like why is this a comic, you know? So yeah, I mean, take that for what it's worth. Um, you know, if you're a fan of you know, kind of this French stylized, like cartoony, almost Disney, you know, influenced art, like this is great, you know. But you're gonna have to kind of work through, right, a lot of you know, conversations, a lot of exposition to get through it, you know. And so, you know, was it good enough for me to want to know what happens in volume 2? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, it was good enough for me to look at this guy's art, but story wise or whatever, like, yeah, I don't see myself picking up the second volume of this. What do we got here? Noah Van Sciver's complete works of Bukowski. I think it's Font. I don't know. But this was I've had this book for a long time, and it just was sitting on the shelf, never got around to it. Yeah, and opened it up, and it was a great read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was a lot of, like, you know, moments of chuckling. The humor was really good. The art, you know, kind of, this is what you know, Noah Van Sciver's art is, kind of his style is. This, you know, this is basically what all of his stuff looks like. And to me, it's you know, enjoyable to look at, visually appealing. A lot of, you know, great humor. You know, yeah, I mean, this was a funny scene. Um, you know, of you know, Fant when he was younger, trying to create, you know, emo band, and you know, his buddies bail on him. Um, and you know, there's just talk, you know, um, you know, it's Van Sciver just kind of busting on, you know, kind of emo, and you know, this kind of culture, you know, which I got a good chuckle out of. You know, and I like this. I like this. You know, these days, like, there's a lot of autobio, memoir, you know, that type of stuff out there, and I just like when you know, someone can take, you know, fiction and make a story, put some of them in there, because you could probably do more. I just feel like you know, the people's minds and creativity, you know, there's more there than if you just did some sort of, you know, kind of, you know, memoir, autobio about yourself. Not to say that, you know, people aren't interesting, but most people aren't that interesting, right? None of, I mean, you can find interesting things about everybody, anybody, you know. But you know, to write a book about, you know, yourself, or you know, whatever, it's just like, I just feel the chances are low that that's going to be interesting, you know, as opposed to you know, a kind of a narrative story about someone else, where you know, the world is your oyster, as far as you are creating this world, and you can do whatever you want with it, you know. And so, I mean, I just think you know, there's just a lot more potential, you know. And so I found that with this book, it's really the journey of this one fool, Fant Bukowski, who is trying to become a writer, and you know, is just really an F up, you know, in many, many ways, you know, kind of entitled, Yeah, I mean, it's just it's kind of a pathetic but funny story, and just great character that was created by Van Sciver, memorable. Um, yeah, the page turner. I know like a lot of his other stuff, like as a cartoonist and the Joseph Smith Mormon story. They've been kind of highly recommended um, by many people. And if this is kind of what it's like, then I can, see why. And so, probably get down to reading a little bit more of his stuff. But I wanted to get through this, which has been on my shelf forever, for a while. Back here, we got some variant covers at Piscor. Um, yeah, just interesting story. Funny. Yeah, I mean, this is good comics. This is just real good, solid comics that leave you wanting more. When you're done with it. So more from the creator at least. And so, the complete works of Fante, Bukowski, Noah Van Sciver. Recommend this. All right, so we got uh, a series, French Franco-Belgian series called Lastman. Bunch of creators on this. Here we go. Written by Michael Sanlaville, Bastien, Vives, Balak, illustrated by Bastien, Vives, and Michael Sanlaville. So I looked up kind of like what this team is doing, and I am assuming, what little that I found was that Bastien Vives was kind of plotting and thumbnailing essentially, or laying out, and then Michael Sanlaville and Balak, they were then fleshing everything out and actually kind of doing the drawing, doing the artwork. And so it's like people describe it as a kind of Franco-Belgian version of manga, and so and that's a good description. I found it to be extremely entertaining. We're starting out in this fantasy world with people with kind of magical powers, able to do magical spells, no technology, and so that's kind of the setting. And there are these kind of like tournaments, battles, where people fight each other with this magic. And the main kind of protagonists of the story are this boy Adrian Velba and his mom. And yeah, his mom's like a baker, and he is like a budding magician, trying to enter this competition, and so I guess it's like a tag team competition. And somehow his partner, he's not that talented at magic, it appears, and his partner bails on him, and he's left out of the competition. Then this random dude happens to kind of pop up, and they decide to join forces. And because this guy's trying to enter the competition, and he finds that the boy is a convenient way to get in there. And so, he's from out of town, somewhere else, tough dude. He ends up not having any magical powers, and he gets in like to them barbarically, just coming in using his fists and just beating the crap out of people. Yeah, and then they fight, So he's a bad guy, but he starts to get kind of close with Adrian, and has the hots for, as basically everybody does, Adrian's mom. The art is like very minimal, right? Like very few strokes. You're spotting blacks. Not too many lines. They're not rendering, but you know, they do it still ends up being very emotive, great expressions, great kind of movement and action. Like there's no difficulty with understanding what's happening. I found the art, like, it's like surprisingly good. If you just like, you're at first glance, it just looks like very minimal, but as you observe, as you read, it's like it's perfect. You can tell characters apart, kind of, even with kind of like basic line work. Adrian's mom, like, very beautifully drawn. Each character, like, very clear, very differentiated. Just found it to be great. It's like a compelling story. And then, I'm not going to spoil anything, but, they're just going through battling, while the mom, is trying to ensure that her son is not hurt. And so, the first volume finishes, then in the second volume, kind of, they expand the world way beyond, kind of what you expect. And I believe volume 3 should be out this month or next month. But yeah, this is like just instant buy for each volume that comes out. I think First Second or somebody was printing these books, and then they stopped. I don't think they finished, and so maybe something happened with the creators. But Skybound from Image then got the rights, and they've now started reprinting the books, and they say the whole series. The series might be continuing to go on in France, so I don't know. But they'll be translating and printing the entire series periodically, and so to catch up, I think it's coming out maybe once every like 3 or 4 months. But yeah, great read, highly recommend it. If you listen to kind of like 11 o'clock comics, or they will have highly recommended it. The first time I heard about it was my buddy Troy Nixie was like, you got to read this. This was before it came out through Skybound, so I never got around to it. And finally, when it did, I was like, oh, that's what Troy was talking about, Lastman. And yeah, I'm not disappointed at all. Must read. This is a must read book. So get it, check it out. Let me know what you think. Another kind of series, random series, by the great Kyle Baker. So yes, Kyle Baker is still making comics, and he's got a series out called Deathcathlon, and it's kind of like a action adventure comedy, and I bought this first volume on his site. He's got a website, Vivera, I think it's vivera.tv, where he sells some books, some art, kind of shows kind of the things that he works on. He does a lot of stuff for TV, media. But yeah, I got cool volume 1 with a drawing in it from him. awesome drawing in it. Um, you know, easy to explain the series. Not much to it, but it's entertaining. It's something that you just kind of like quickly can flip through, appreciate the art. I think Baker is he's kind of like a modern Jack Davis to me. It's just so many different styles that he excels at. Kind of just an action book like this. Great movement, great posing, great cartooning. So basically, what's happening is there's this dude, this Olympic decathlon athlete going around, basically assassinating people. And then this girl, this detective, is she's on, kind of a case trying to take down, this crime family, right? For like narcotics. And so it's kind of her hijinks and him kind of, crossing paths and them trying to, solve and resolve kind of this case. And so, it takes place in, it's kind of this weird, like retro 70s New York City, but they have cell phones. Yeah, so it's kind of like this weird world, which, allows Baker to probably draw things that he wants to draw. That's what I'm assuming. And it looks great. It's all black and white. I wouldn't say like the quality of like the paper and the printing is like so fantastic. I think probably because it's just like self published. This is not from like Image or anything like that. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if there's like yeah, this is probably like some sort of print to order or print on demand kind of company that does this. But even then, like in black and white, yeah, I mean Baker's art is phenomenal. This is probably different from his style that you've seen if you read like Plastic Man or The Shadow or Why I Hate Saturn, those kind of things. But it's still fantastic, and it really demonstrates like how good, of a cartoonist he is. And so great kind of, faces, great kind of character design. Yeah, I mean, it was just like, it's about as easy a read as there is, and I mean, for me, like, I don't need comics to always be like deep or just kind of like some mind-blowing conceptual thing, although that stuff is great too. Sometimes you just want entertainment, you want good entertainment that makes you kind of laugh, makes you want to turn the page visually. The art speaks to you visually. It's, you see like how skilled the artist is. Like, I enjoy great figure work, I enjoy great movement. um and so, I mean, that's what this is. There's really no weakness. And then Baker, as a writer, I've always found he's just extremely humorous. Just very funny takes on the world, society, people. And yeah, I mean, none of it's like corny. It's just very fun. Like a action adventure comedy is really, literally that's what it is, and with fantastic art. And so um, yeah, I'm assuming this is probably under the radar for most people. If you've read comics, I'm sure you know who Kyle Baker is, but uh, many might not know that he's still, self-publishing comics, and so highly recommend this Deathcathlon. I think you probably get it on Amazon, and if you want to support, on his site, and get kind of something, with this nice sketch, which is fantastic to have by really, modern master. I consider him. Yeah, Deathcathlon. Totally enjoyed this, and I'll pick up each volume, as they come out, if they continue to come out, and so hopefully they do. And the last book, probably one of my favorite books that I've read recently, and I don't know, it's up there for this year, but it's The Grot by Pat Grant, and yeah, I mean, I was introduced to Pat Grant by For the Love of Comics. I think he reviewed The Blue, which I got, and then he previewed this book a while back. This was a couple of years back at least, and so I picked it up too, and this was significantly better to me than The Blue. Very stylized type of art, but I love kind of like this. I don't know if this is watercolored, or kind of actually kind of watercolored on board, or later kind of digitally watercolored. But really enjoyed it, like the colors, his style, the kind of lettering. It's essentially like a gold rush story, in some far away different kind of land. And so instead of gold, they're kind of, there's this weird neon slime material called the Grot that people are going to try to strike it rich by finding. And around all of that, right? Kind of a society develops with people trying to make money off of everyone kind of coming through, and that might be to sell them things, materials, whatever, services, or just straight up, cheat, and so and take advantage of. And so it's kind of like the journey of this one family, a group of brothers and their mom, trying to make something of this kind of rush, and they create and sell this yogurt, right? That's supposed to be great, and it's just so random. But they get there, they have their kind of like nest egg, and they're trying to start this business and build, and yeah, and then they just encounter all these kind of untrustworthy individuals, and it's their kind of journey and fight for survival in this crazy, rough, town that is kind of all about every man for themselves and everyone trying to make it. It's kind of like the ultimate battle, and so yeah, it's a great read. Everything is developed very well. The ending is fantastic. Highly recommend this, but this is one of the top very best reads I think it's gonna be for the year. And so not sure if Pat Grant has anything else in the pipeline, but after this, yeah, he's probably always going to be on my radar when he comes out with stuff. And so, yeah, highly recommend this one, The Grot by Pat Grant. Yeah, and so that about does it. Long video of a bunch of recent reads. Probably should have broken this up, but whatever. Hope you guys are reading lots of comics. Try to get back on the video making train. And so thanks for watching. Subscribe if you've been enjoying it. Yeah, take care. Bye.